Hey everybody, Pete A. Turner, executive producer and host of your Break It Down show, doing today's live introduction for our episode today. I have a badass. This is actually the third badass from a single day of badasses. I have Craig Sawman Sawyer from DEVGRU, aka SEAL Team 6. And I guess that day we had Jay Dobbins, undercover ATF agent. Okay, girl, that's badass for sure. Also, Don Fry, UFC Hall of Famer and open fighting style legend. And then, of course, we had Craig in the evening, and it's just a bunch of badass dudes doing incredible things. Craig's new venture now that he's not a SEAL anymore, and he's out fighting against human trafficking. It's an area we've been discussing a lot here in the Break It Down show. His organization is called VeteransForChildRescue.org, Veterans for Child Rescue, and they go out after folks that are looking for young kids and trying to traffic them for sexual purposes. It's hard work with nasty people, but he's out there making it hard on them and hopefully putting a dent in what turns out to be a multi-billion-dollar industry. It's crazy. You guys should go check out their YouTube movie, or actually it's a documentary called Contraland movie. And if you type in Contraland as one word, you will find the documentary Contraland. Together we can end child trafficking. And they're right, we can. This is a powerful episode. Craig talks directly about his experiences in his family and what it means to go after these traffickers. A huge shout out to a couple of people. One is Michael Broderick, the actor, Marine, who said, hey, you need to have Sawman on the show. And so we got this in just as all the COVID closings were happening. I was still in Arizona. My friends were wondering, can you come back from California? So I was able to grab him face to face. So I did. So hat tip to Michael Broderick and for all he does, because he's a big supporter of the community. And of course, my friend Dan White, who put me up and drove me all around. He was there in the background taking pictures, and he's been a great friend to me. So I appreciate him. And once again, we had a great day. So big shout to Dan and to Michael. How you support the show? You can buy the shirts. I'm about to I think I'll have them done this week. The new shirts will be out. Obviously, subscribing to the show on YouTube. We're so close to 1,000 subscriptions, which is a big milestone in terms of the show and getting attention paid by YouTube. But in general, just participating, sharing, commenting, liking. When you comment, I'm going to jump in and comment with you. That's what helps that post stay to the top of the feed and let someone else discover it. Human trafficking is a scourge, and this is how you help this episode stay on top of the feed is by participating with it. Hey, one final thing before we go. You know what I'm going to say now? It's Save the Brave, SaveTheBrave.org. Save the Brave is our home charity here. Scott, John, and myself all contribute to it monthly. Matter of fact, I think my donation comes out in 2 days. Every month, we give a small amount of money. We give our time. We give our attention. And obviously, we give the ads here on the show. So make sure you guys go check out SaveTheBrave.org. And now here comes the Sawman.
Lions Rock Productions.
This is Jay
This
Moore.
is Greg Proops.
This is Jordan Harbinger.
This is Dexter from The Offspring.
This is Nathan
This is
East.
Sebastian Younger.
This is Rick
This
Marotta.
is Stuart Copeland.
This is Mick Gillette.
This is Andy Summers.
Hey, this is Skunk Baxter.
This is Gabby Reese.
This is Rob Bell.
Hey, this is John Leon Guerrero.
Hey, and this is Pete A. Turner.
Hey, this is Craig Sawman Sawyer, and you're listening to the Break It Down show.
When did you become the Sawman? Is that high school or something? Or?
It morphed into the Sawman. It was Saw Mug, Saw Dude,
Saw
and
Dog.
then Saw Dog, yeah, Sawman. And then more when it came into the SEAL teams, it became Sawman, more prevalent, and then it just stuck. It stuck, and that's what it's been ever since.
Because when you show up to the teams or ODA or anything like that, you can't say, I've got a nickname. Because it's like, no, you don't have a nickname. Here's your new nickname, and it ain't ever going to be good.
Right.
But with your name, though, you're kind of already in that nickname zone.
It was already so known. That's what the guys already called me. So it just never changed.
Right. One SEAL story, and then we're not going to talk about SEALs anymore. Anything you want to throw out there?
The cool stuff you do is not really cool for other people. I think what we all, when we hoist a pint with the brothers, we all talk about the screwed up stuff that we laugh about in the team room, right? Going, hey, remember when so-and-so got his foot hung up and he's flying around upside down or whatever?
Yeah.
There was a time when I was the lead fast attack vehicle driver.
All right.
It was way back at the SEAL Team 1. And we were backed into this CH-47. Mm-hmm. And it had this giant fuel bladder in it, and we were backed right up against that thing. and the engine was breaking up essentially. So the chips kept going into the engine, and the chip sensor light kept going on. The computer was going off. So the pilots would do this fixed wing style landing across the desert floor to keep from browning out. And the crew chief would jump out, take the oil screen out, bang it out, get all the chips off of it, put it back in. The pilots would reset the computer, and off we'd go again, right? But the motor was breaking up.
Yeah.
Well, that was pre-dusk, and then it got dusk, and then it got dark, and everybody had just gone on nods, and they went to go do this again for the third time. And this time, they saw an above ground pipeline, but only after it was too late, because the sand that they had been pushing in front of them had obscured it until we were on it. Oh. And they pulled back on the stick and flared to the degree that where I was looking out of the back of the bird. I'm sitting in the driver's seat in a 5-point racing harness, and I'm looking straight down at the ground, and I'm wondering to myself, how much pitch is too far before lift is no longer lift?
Yeah.
If the nose of this bird is literally straight up and down, how far can he do this until something goes horribly wrong? Anyway, the other two guys were not on ICS, so they weren't hearing the pilots. But the pilots were kind of losing it. They were losing their cool, not their normal demeanor. And so it got to be quite frantic for a couple seconds. The engine completely blew, and we landed on the oil pipeline, and they got up just enough RPM to get up off of it with the one remaining engine and set the bird down. Wow. And I was the only one that could hear that. The other guys didn't hear what was going on, but they said, hey, this mission's a scrub. This is an abort. We're going to RTB ASAP per the other bird. And there was nothing but a spinning headset in the air because we were running already for that other bird. We're like, we're out of here, man. We'd had enough of this thing. So that's that's a story something that we laugh about, those kinds of things,
I actually have a broken helicopter story. So I was flying over camps doing like vulnerability assessments, just taking aerial photos, and no big deal. They strap you in, you lean out, you take pictures, and it's a riot until they're like, hey, something's wrong with the motor. And it's a Black Hawk, so it's not like super high performance. These guys aren't 1/60th guys. Guys who just fly, and they're good at it. And so we park, and then they kind of do. It's like an episode of Magnum PI where TC's like, I don't know what to do. That's all that's going on. I said, well, we think we can make it back. It's going to be all right. But that's a big decision for these guys because it's their bird, and I'm on it and everything else. Right. So they're like, we're going to drop you off at your camp, and then we're going to head back. Everything should be fine. I don't want you to worry. But and then they give me the whole briefing. So and I'm like, yeah, whatever. I'm dumb. I'm young. I'm like, whatever. So we start flying, and then they drop me off, and then I realize, holy shit, the helipad is at least a mile from the camp. And I'm solo patrolling through, Bosnia, and they've, briefed us like there are 18 bazillion mines, and, watch out, the kids might try to kill you. And I'm like, holy fuck. And I don't have a radio.
Not cool.
No one even knows I'm coming. And I'm like, what if I, because, every step of the way, I'm like, what if?
Right,
And it totally, partially, permanently broke my brain a little bit, like, it was like my first real combat, and even nothing happened.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. And I thought, what if I get all the way up to this thing, and they see me, and they're like, who the fuck is that? And some guy shoots me because he's on guard duty. And I'm like,
re-entering friendly lines is no joke in hostile
Yeah, and
situation.
I didn't know, I didn't know what the password was for the day, and I don't even remember if we had a running password, but still, it's super dangerous. And I was like, I'm Pete. And it worked out, but how terrifying, right? And then they're like, no big deal. And I'm like, yeah, no big deal. Then I realized years later, I'm like, holy shit, that fucked me up a little bit. It's crazy.
Well, there was a guy who's a MACV-SOG operator in Vietnam.
Yeah.
And I was talking to him at the SF Safe House in Bangkok a few years ago.
Yeah.
And pumping him for stories, because whenever I meet one of those guys, I'm like, man, you're the guys I wanted to be.
Yeah.
The Navy SEALs that were working in the Rungsat Special Zone and you MACV-SOG operators are who I wanted to become. I wanted to operate with you guys. Yeah. That's what motivated me to come do this. And, will you tell me some of your experiences? And so, they do. And this guy he was talking to me, and I said, will you tell me the most hairy thing that you felt or experienced? He goes, Craig, without any hesitation, I can tell you we're in Laos, and we were doing a dark patrol, and we knew there was heavy enemy activity and contact was imminent.
Yeah.
But he goes, it was in those times when it was so dark. You couldn't see your hand in front of your face, and nothing was wrong. Nothing was happening. Your mind would just absolutely terrify you.
Yeah.
And and he said it was actually a relief. Once contact was made and you saw X number of muzzle flashes and enemy strength, and you're like, okay, now we do what we do.
Yeah.
In return to that, at least you understand that, it's not something else, because your mind will play tricks on you. So he said that for him, that was the most heinous and scary thing.
I think that's our era's hard thing. Like, you sit there and you wait, and the tension is always pulled. And you just don't know when someone's going to push 9 on their phone, or you drive over and it's like you're always waiting. Like it's about to happen all the time, Scan everything, pattern of life, and you're looking and you're waiting, and it fucks us up,
The mind's a terrible thing, isn't it?
And how many of us have said, and I know you've said this because we've all said this, like, I'd rather be in combat than suffer through this when you come back. You're just like, oh, this is horrible, And it's like, I've said it, I'm like, I'd rather be shot at than this.
Well, we're creatures of habit, we humans.
Yeah.
And we're more comfortable in things that are familiar.
Yeah.
And you take a combat veteran, he's been in theater for months or years.
Yeah.
And for him, that's very familiar. And although it sucks, it sucks in a familiar way, and that's where he's more comfortable. Yeah. Ultimately, he becomes wired to exist in that environment. And so, this is like, jumping out of a bus and hitting a parked truck. It's like the pace of life and the intensity is entirely different.
Yeah. And then some guy with the bad mustache who's your boss is talking to you, and you're like, I could kill you right now. Like, you don't realize I'm sorting this out. Like, all right, you're going to be all right today, but you don't know how close you came, Oh my God. Anyhow, enough about that stuff. Let's talk about what you're working on now, because a new mission, even crazier than all the other stuff you've done, and the fact that it's here is blowing my mind.
It's crazier because it's not of a sound mind. The abuse that child predators perpetrate on children. I still, to this day, I've been doing this very actively full time for 3 years now, and I still can't comprehend why people get off on just doing the unthinkable to precious and innocent children. I don't understand that. That's what makes it crazy. It's insane.
Yeah.
And it comes from a very dark and despicable place. It's the absolute worst element of mankind that does this. And that's it's something that I would rather do anything else on the face of this planet than deal with this. It's so despicable.
Yeah.
And at heart, I'm a big kid. I'm a recreational minded guy. Man, I raced motocross when I got out of the SEAL teams.
Yeah.
I played in rock and roll bands. I love to have fun. I'm a surfer. I'm a rock climber.
Yeah.
I love the outdoors, and I love water sports, and I just like to just have just mindless recreational fun with my life and my time. But, after experiencing all the things that I have and undergoing all the training and capability that I've benefited from gaining over the years, and all the contacts that I know that are very powerful and capable people, I can't in good faith turn away from what I now know and feel okay about it. Yeah. That's the bottom line. Is too many people turn away from that which is unacceptable, and that's what allows the crooks to thrive. And we've created unwittingly a permissive environment for child sex trafficking in the United States.
I want to get back into the human trafficking thing, but I want to ask you this too. Given your background, all the training, the extreme challenge of just getting through buds in half of a piece, not even one piece, is that all the path to get to this point? Like, is this really what you're meant to do, do you think? Or you're not sure yet? Or
I have zero doubt that this is exactly what I'm meant to do.
Yeah.
And it's been confirmed through all of my friends and family.
Yeah.
They say, my God, Craig, look behind you at the ridiculous life path that you have lived.
Yeah.
And how it has been very specifically a dress rehearsal and training course for what you now do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And for me, it kind of blows my mind because I can look back and see it.
Yeah.
Now, I think it's important for people to consider this. At each time when I underwent these life challenges and setbacks and obstacles and points of pain in my life, I did not understand why.
Right.
And at times I did feel sorry for myself. Now, I didn't run around telling everybody that,
Right. Yeah.
but on the inside, I felt like, God, why me? What have I done
Yeah.
to deserve this?
Yeah.
Well, in hindsight, now at 56 years old, I understand a little bit more about how things work, and I can look back and go, wow, it wasn't because I was a bad person and I was being punished. I was being trained and prepared.
Yeah.
Right? If you took a child and he didn't know any better and you put him through boot camp, he would think he was being punished. But really, if he is to go off to war,
Yeah.
boot camp and military training is to
Right.
prepare us for the task at hand in a hostile environment.
Right.
Well, my life's path has been a long training course to prepare me to rip the lid off of child sex trafficking and kick the pants out of the child predators now.
Yeah. How is it that, because I've only started to become hip to this because of like Jason Piccolo introducing this, and I had Jeremy Mayhew on the show.
Mayhew, yeah, another
Mayhew
good
on the
dude.
show. Yeah, and all working on this bigger problem of, human trafficking in the United States. And I mean, as in here right now, like the Arizona, California, all these places where, for a variety of reasons, whether, you're focused on one aspect or not, that's really happening. I had no idea it was so pervasive and so poorly provisioned because we were focused on other aspects that are equally important, like whatever, terror, that kind of thing. I mean, you drive around Ground Zero, there's a lot of money being spent on keeping Ground Zero from getting attacked again.
Yeah.
But that innocent kid, that's approachable. I was at Glenn Beck's studio, doing some appearances there, and he was talking about how his kid was being groomed via like Xbox over the headset, and he's like, and we were lucky to catch it when we did. And his kid was groomed. His kid was like, no, you don't understand. Craig's a great guy. I'm going to go meet him. He's a great guy. It's like, oh, fuck. Your kid was about to get disappeared, or nothing good was going to happen from there. You know?
Yeah.
And
the
I
American
had no idea.
populace is generally unwitting to it. And that's dangerous.
Yeah. Yeah.
So my mission, and I looked at it and I saw the same thing that you did. And I was deploying for different agencies back over into the war zones, trying to keep some of our highest ranking diplomatic officials and intelligence community officials off of Al Jazeera and the evening news in an orange jumpsuit, right?
Yep.
So moving those people around and doing that, it was good work. And but once I started learning about what was going on here, I thought, wait a minute, I've done some counter poaching work in Africa for the rhino poaching. And why am I going over there and helping them? Although I love the animals and I was passionate about that mission.
Right.
Our own children are being hunted right here.
Yeah.
If child sex trafficking is the fastest growing criminal enterprise on earth, and an estimated $38 to $50 billion a year enterprise in the United States,
You said
just
billion?
with the children alone,
Right.
then why would I deploy anywhere else on earth
Right.
to confront bad guys that may come here when there are obviously tons of them already here actively attacking our children? And my own daughter was abducted down by the University of Arizona at knife point, brutally raped again and again all night long.
Wow.
And we were woken up by a phone call 3 years ago, and I could hear my baby girl screaming through the phone. And she had just turned 18, and she was hysterical, and she was driving home. She was running red lights and everything else.
How would you not kill everybody in Tucson?
Well, that's how I woke up from a deep sleep at like 4 a.m. or whenever it was, 3 or 4. And my wife was crying, and she said, "Oh my God, baby, it's Aspen. She's been raped." And I'm spinning out of the rack looking for my kit. It's like, who gets nuked? What grid square gets nuked right now?
Right.
Who all has to die
Yeah.
to safeguard my baby girl?
Yeah.
And I heard her, and so I picked up my phone and I said, "Where is she?" And she says, "She's driving home." I'm like, "What street is she on?" She told me the name of the street that she was on. I said, "Give me a cross street. I'm getting the sheriff's department to vector in, intercept her, and either escort her home, or better yet, pull her over and make her safe right there in Strong Point, and I will come to her because they can get to her before I can." So this isn't a matter of seconds from a deep sleep. And my wife said she's not stopping for anything, Craig. She's not stopping.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was quite clearly a danger to the public. Of course, there's nobody on the road at that hour, but it was an upsetting way to wake up. And so we got her back safe. The sheriff's department was already here at the house waiting. And we took her to the hospital. And on the way there, I said, Sweet Pea, I call her Sweet Pea. I said, there's two ways that we can approach this for now. Number one, we can insulate you and try to separate you from this as much as we can and try to make it better.
Yeah.
Or we can fight back, and that decision has to be yours.
Right.
And I said, if you choose to fight back, that's how you get him. But it also means they're going to dig it all into every part of your body.
Yeah.
And they're going to poke you and take a lot of samples of everything, and they're going to ask you a lot of really deep, painful questions.
Yeah.
Yeah, but only you know the right answer for you. I said, you tell me, and we'll honor that and respect it. And she said, oh, Papa, there's no question about it. We got to get this SOB off the street. We can't. He's done this extensively, and he had a knife to me all night long, and he told me I was the only one he hadn't killed yet, and he didn't know why he hadn't killed me.
Yeah.
And I had to figure out how to get away from him. So he's got to go down, and I'll do anything it takes. And so on the outside, I was really cool. I want you to know I was like ice cool. It's like, yeah, that's a respectable decision, Aspen. We appreciate that. You know, I was very calm and collected. On the inside, I was jumping up and down like Rocky at the end of his fight. You know, yo, Adrian, she said fight back. You know,
Yeah.
I was so pumped because that fighting spirit of that decision to go after the predator so that he could not do this to anyone else made me really proud of her in that moment of crisis when most people don't necessarily think that way. So many of them, the victims, don't want to go through, quite frankly, stuff that they're going to be put through that should be made a lot easier on them, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And so they tap out and they're like, hey, I'm not willing to go through that anymore.
Yeah.
And the trial and all
Want it to be over.
Yeah, it's just, I want it to go away.
Yep.
So she was willing to fight back. So we went to the hospital, and the detective said, are you the father? And I said, yeah, I'm the father. And she looked at her partner, and she goes, well, just realize it'll probably take us quite some time to find whoever did it, and blah, 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 blah. And my wife started laughing, and she's like, excuse me? And I said, well, you'd better be, you're not going to have that kind of time.
Yeah.
You better be damn quick if you plan to beat me to him.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
And she looked at me, and I raised my eyebrow at her, and my wife's like pointing at me like, you better listen to him. And the detective looked at her partner, and her partner motioned her outside. They said, excuse us. They went outside for about 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And then they came back. Now they know my name. Mr. Sawyer, we're going to make this our first priority. My wife whispered to me, they Googled you or they ran your name. I'm like, clearly.
Yeah.
But, and while I'm sad that it took them figuring out that they got a DEVGRU operator that's probably going to go off and burn people alive on the mayor's front yard or whatever they could imagine being done to this clown. I was glad to hear them decide that they were going to do something about it. My wish would be that they would have done that no matter what the child's father was, because isn't the victim just as deserving?
Absolutely.
No matter who her daddy is? She can't choose who her daddy is.
Right, right. And I get like the resources, you know, Tucson's a big place. There's a lot of people, you know, and it's like, you know, how do you manage it? I mean, I live in Orange County, 3.5 million people with 200,000 people always there for Disneyland conferences, you know, so there's something crazy happening at any given moment. You can't cover it all, you know? So I get the part that, hey, we're going to get to this. We're going to, you know, it's going to be important, but, you know, wait 10 minutes. There's another, you know, there's dad next right there, you know?
Yeah.
It's crazy that is the case, but it's also crazy to have a DEVGRU guy going.
They're like, okay, this guy can make some things happen. We better play ball here and figure something out.
Come up with scenarios. But yeah, I mean, that's why I'm like, how did you not kill everybody? Because, you know, there's also, I don't want to go down that road. Anyhow, yeah, I'm glad that you were able to deal with it in a way that made sense. So what did they do with you? How did they involve you in the process?
They said, give us a few days.
Okay.
We're asking you.
Yeah.
Just do nothing.
Yeah.
Let us, it's better for all of us. Just let us.
Yeah.
We're on it.
Yeah.
Let us do our deal. And I
Right.
said, okay. And in hindsight, come to find out, they'd done a SWAT team raid. They'd figured out who he was and where he was. They did a SWAT team raid on the house. He wasn't in the house at the time, but then they found him like 2 days later on the sidewalk, one of the officers of TPD made a chance contact stop. Thought that looked like him, and it was.
Wow.
And he cuffed him up and put him in the car.
Yeah.
And he told the guy, "Hey, you're lucky we got to you before the father did." And so that was the first thing that perp heard when he got cuffed up. So, I guess that feels nice in a way, but my frustration is that he had done this to numerous people, and soft judges had allowed him back out on the streets again and again. In fact, he'd had a warrant out for him for months before he abducted and raped and assaulted our daughter.
Yeah.
He should not have been on the streets. That attack to our daughter should not have happened.
Right.
But for a soft judge who had allowed it.
Yeah.
And I want everybody that looks at this situation with the child sex predators and the legal system to realize that it's not merciful. It's not kind to go soft on a child predator. They never change. It's one of the things that's hardwired, that their preferences don't ever change.
Right.
And they cannot be allowed to do it again and again because they don't ever stop. The average number of children whose lives they destroyed is 70. 70 children for every child molester.
Yeah.
Some of them put themselves in positions where they rape hundreds of children before they die.
Hey, this is Pete A. Turner from Lions Rock Productions. We create podcasts around here, and if you, your brand, or your company want to figure out how to do a podcast, just talk to me. I'll give you the advice on the right gear, the best plan, and show you how to take a podcast that makes sense for you, that's sustainable, that's scalable, and fun. Hit me up
Put
at
themselves in positions where they rape hundreds of children before they die.
Yeah.
And some of them get caught immediately. So the average is 70 children each. So we've got a problem, and we've got to crack down on it legally. It's not a kind and merciful thing to let them loose because they're only going to cause greater harm.
Yeah.
Guaranteed.
So was this what got you into this part of the game?
No, that was the kind of the cup check after I'd committed to it. And it did feel good that the paperwork came through and we were able to found the organization officially within a month after our daughter's abduction. So that was a little bit of it felt good to have that legal progress made on our fight and our mission. That like evil, kicked me in the groin when I committed to this fight to kind of see if I really meant business, and I did. And the next win for us was getting the organization legally registered and all the paperwork completed, and we were certified. So then we started raising money. We started filming a documentary to alert the populace on the threat that they did not know about, running joint operations with federal and local law enforcement. Now we've gotten 22 predator arrests with a 100% conviction rate already, and we're lining up a bunch more.
Yeah, well, you keep taking them off the street, and that's the difference maker,
Yeah.
So how do you guys, this is, it's a legal thing. Like there's rules and shit. You can't just go out and attack people and how you investigate.
Wait,
how do
what?
you guys fit with it?
Now you tell me.
Don't tell me that. What are you talking about?
I've been coloring all outside the lines. No.
Yeah. But what do you guys do? How do you guys play within the system? Because obviously you're doing it, in a way that makes sense.
Well, morally and legally speaking, some people ask me, Craig, how do you keep from
there's that question.
Going off on these guys? And my answer to that is if I continue to color inside the lines, then I am allowed to keep coloring. And if my motivation, my strategic goal is to change the culture of the United States back to one that is protective of our children rather than the one that we have now that's predatory, secretly so, but very predatory against our children, then I'm going to have to stay at this for the long game. And to do that, I've got to color inside the line. And so I'm finding the way to make the most powerful positive effect within that left and right lateral limit. Mm-hmm. So I've realized that because it's a permissive environment and it's relatively easy for them, I need to create a hostile and non-permissive environment out of the United States against child sex trafficking and child sex predators, so that wherever they go, people see it they see them, they understand what it is because they've seen my documentaries and my information pieces all over the place, and they've been informed and empowered. And so now they can see the predator. They'll take pictures, they'll ask questions, they'll call the police, they'll take video of license plates and run people down the airports. Hey, that's not your daughter. She just told me in the bathroom. Who are you? Why are you dragging her through the airport? Police, police, police. And so that these guys are going to have a damn hard time of continuing this in the future, to such a point, and it's in my heart to make it to so hostile that they say, well, it's just too hot. The heck with that. I'm going to find another way to make money. This kid thing is it's a nightmare. It's not worth it anymore.
It's incredible. Have you seen the documentary Don't Fuck with Cats or Don't Mess with Cats? You know what I'm talking about?
I've heard of it.
Yeah, and it's like so for those that are listening, it's like a Facebook group, and there are videos of cats and stuff, and there's this proto serial killer who is killing cats and then posting it on Facebook, the videos and everything. And they didn't like that. And so because they were so passionate about the cat thing, they became this powerful joint cell of analysis. And they're like looking at a blank wall and going, where would this person be? Well, this is, and they would start putting the puzzle together like a mob, not a mob, that's not the right way. A group of people who are unaffiliated all of a sudden start saying, well, that looks like this looks like that. And
network.
Right. And then work that the cops could never do, because when they brought it to the cops were like, oh, what are you talking about? You guys are crazy. And then all of a sudden they kept stacking in like evidence, not circumstance, like boom, 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 boom. And they're like, well, you've done a lot of our work for us.
Yeah.
And they were able to get this guy off the streets ultimately before it went too bad, because this guy was going to go to jail at some point or die. It was just how many people he killed in the process, But it was incredible to see just the power of that Facebook group. And they latched on, and it took a long time to do it. And again, they're coloring outside of the lines in a way that this is not normal, but they didn't break the law in doing it,
Legally, they were inside the lines.
Right.
Yeah. No, I don't mean coloring. For me, I don't mean to say that coloring inside the lines as far as conventional tactics or wisdom would go. No, I'm a very outside the box, unconventional minded kind of guy for solutions. But legally speaking, what I say, I color inside the lines so that I'm allowed to continue doing that. Because I've got the federal law enforcement background as well. Yeah. And I can kind of speak that language and understand those sensitivities and liabilities for law enforcement. And they know that I'm not Rambo. I'm not coming through the door with a belt-fed machine gun and everybody dies. You know.
You do kind of a raw deal kind of compound here. They're like a helicopter come in, not again.
So I think it's fantastic what you just shared about the group on Facebook, because look, here's a bunch of regular citizens that just decided to have a positive effect. And the network is very powerful. So they shared information and they began building and compiling evidence. And that's what you need to take these predators off the streets. Yeah. So what a beautiful thing. Together we are what we can't be alone. We can be a network together. We cannot be a network alone. And we can all have our hearts broken. We can all be angered and raged by injustice and cruelty and just absolute mindless destruction of people's lives. But what are we going to do about it? Well, we can become a network. And I think it's a very powerful solution to start watching and learning how these guys tick and start compiling evidence and start sharing it and pushing it to the right law enforcement units and demanding that something be done. And then having the positive outcome. And you know what? We can all do that from wherever we are.
And just the knowledge for that predator that you're trying to get them at least to consider, like, there are cameras everywhere now. Like in this documentary, they're like, camera here, camera here, camera here. And they were able to slowly put evidence together of things that, unless you're constantly aware that there's a camera or you're not doing anything wrong, you're never going to know.
Yeah.
It's so those things are powerful in terms of deterring. How do you guys draw your line around human trafficking? Because again, the thing I've learned is like there's external, coming in and pushing kids out. There's, just the sex trafficking of turning someone into a prostitute, or a lot of different varieties. What is your guys' flavor, I guess, would you say, of what's your target within that world?
I want to destroy the whole thing. I want to sink the entire ship of child sex abuse and trafficking altogether. It need not be part of who we are. even animals in the animal kingdom, except for like an alpha male lion that takes over a pride and wants to kill off all the cubs that aren't his, because he wants the cubs he wants to know that it's his offspring.
Yeah.
All the rest of the animal kingdom look after their young, even animals.
Yeah.
So how can we look down on animals that take care of their young if we destroy our own offspring as human? How dare we? I mean, what a pathetic indicator of what we've slumped into. So, man, I would say we've got to be better than that. And none of it is good. None of it's acceptable. All of it destroys the children's lives, man. We interview the surviving victims all the time. Okay. And they'll tell you very clearly in their adulthood what they could never articulate in their little child mind.
Yeah.
Because the frontal lobe and outer cortex of our brains are not fully developed now until they're learning more like 23 to 25 years of age.
Yeah, possibly later than that.
Frontal lobe and outer cortex are not yet fully developed. So a child does not have the defense mechanism mentally to fend off a full-grown predatory adult that's a master manipulator and can threaten and coerce that child to get what he wants. And it destroys the little minds. And what I ask these predators when we are sitting there talking to them and they're there to have sex with children, I let them know that who I am and why I'm there. Yeah. And I'll ask them, what did you think this was going to do to this child? Yeah. Because some of the predators have children of their own. I'm like, would you want this done to your children? And some of them are like, oh, heck no. Are you kidding me? And I said, then what did you think was going to happen to this kid? Whose child is this? Yeah. What if this was you, this child? Would you want to be raped by a full-grown man? And they don't have an answer because they are not considering the child. And that's why there's some elements in our society that want to say, oh, there's no rules. There should, you should have no moral rules in life and just free minds. Just do whatever you want. It's just a sexual preference.
Yeah.
Well, I'd say if you're an adult and you are consenting, then have at it. Tear yourselves to pieces. I don't care what you do until you make it my problem. When you start attacking children and ruining the lives and the minds of little children that can't defend themselves, they cannot advocate for themselves. They cannot give you their consent for that because in their little minds, they're screaming. Even though they're not screaming on the outside, you're shattering their little minds. And we know that because we interview tons of them. And they can tell you later, oh yeah, it was a nightmare. But I didn't know what to do. And I was scared.
And ashamed.
And confused and just young and didn't know. So it's just, it's all bad. It's all bad. We got to go after these guys. So we got to hunt them. They need to be scared and they need to be worried that they're going to run into guys like us.
Is this
because they are.
Is it a regional problem?
No.
Obviously, okay, so it's everywhere.
Yeah, it is literally everywhere. And it is everyone. We have caught federal law enforcement agents seeking sex with underage children. We have caught active duty Army recruiter. We've caught illegal aliens. We've caught fundamentalist Mormon church elder. Every
it's everywhere.
Every segment of society. It's not the subculture. It's the general. It's evil is what it is. And evil can manifest itself in the heart of anybody. And we've learned that you really can't judge a book by its cover. You look at somebody, you can't tell. You cannot tell.
Someone who's listening right now and wants to understand more about this, like they're still blown away. Like where can they go for a reference? I mean, obviously your guys' website, but like in general, where do they go to get some? In this day and age, too, it's so hard to know what's real and what's not. So like, where would you send folks to?
Yeah, well, our website is vetsforchildrescue.org, and we keep that pretty heavily loaded up with empowering information. Mm-hmm. So I'd have them go there first and learn more and learn how the predators stalk your children through their apps, on their phones, through their computers, through their Xbox games.
Right.
It's really ugly and cunning the way that the predators stalk them that way. So your children have to be aware of that, and you have to be aware of who your children are hanging out with and who they're talking with on their phones. You have to have access to their phones And one of the most brilliant solutions I've heard is keeping your kids' phones in your master bedroom on charge at night. But once the sun goes down, kid doesn't have any more business with that phone. I'm going to take it in mommy and daddy's room, and here's where the phones stay on charge. You can have it back before you go to school or whatever. Another website is NCMEC, the National Center of Missing and Exploited Children. They have a lot of good statistics on there, and they're hugely funded and have access to a lot of data.
Yeah.
So that's a good data source as well. We've got partner organizations that have good information as well. One of ours is Sold No More.
Okay.
And they specialize in education and prevention. And so if you go to soldnomore.org, I believe, or .com, you'll see quite a bit of good stuff on their website as well.
When you say children, I mean, there's a legal definition, and then there's like tender age, which is like just to give context. But I mean, again, their brains aren't even fully formed, and they're over 18 years old. So, like, what do you guys see? Like, is there a targeted age? Like, if we're going to tell parents, like, you're always worried about your kid, but at some point you got to go, my kid's 25 years old. I can't hold their phone.
Right.
What are we talking? Give us some context on what a kid.
It seems like the biggest numbers of victims we're seeing are between like 12 and 14 range. So a 13-year-old kid's like right in the sweet spot of where I'm seeing the most attacks, the most predation, because they've got phones, they've got the devices. Children, like 10 and under, now a lot of them don't necessarily have phones yet. And so by the time they're about 13, they usually have phones. They're on their apps quite a bit, but they're not yet savvy to understand the game, the stalking of the killing fields, that the other child that they're talking to and having a good time on, whatever app they're on or whatever game is not another child. It's a 40 or 50 or 60-year-old scumbag predatory adult trying to get pictures and video of them and then lure them out of the house. Oh, and by the way, some of these apps geolocate the child.
Yeah.
And the child is unwitting to it.
Yeah.
So the predator can be literally sitting outside the house, tracking them to not only what house, but what room in the house. They can see like what part of the house that thing's chirping from. Yeah. And the child has no clue. What an easy victim. It's like bopping a little bunny on the head and throw it in the back of a creepy rape van. It's too easy. Yeah. We have to defend the children, man. So that's about the age. That's and then, after that, the girls and boys get, a little bigger, a little stronger, and not maybe as easy to manipulate. But 12, 13, 14 is right in the middle of it. But of course, it's a much bigger bracket than that. And there are sickos that absolutely take diapers off of infants and rape them. Yeah. And we see those arrests all the time.
Yeah. And is this is there a preference for gender, or is this doesn't matter boy or girl?
They do have preferences for gender. What I've seen that turned my stomach, frankly, I think it's the most vulgar behavior I've seen is when we put out an ad for a 13-year-old boy.
Yeah.
It's like the predators lose all of their standard operating procedures. There's no more courting demeanor or language.
Yeah.
They seem to throw off all of their security and they lose their damn minds and they just come running.
Wow.
For the boy. It's like this shark in a feeding frenzy.
Right.
It's the most sickening and despicable thing. It's got to be just pure evil because these people, they just want, like, I could be there in 5 minutes and they almost show up at the door with their pants off. It's just absolutely despicable.
What do you attribute? I mean, evil, of course, but like, these are people with regular lives a lot of times. I mean, federal agents, right? Whatever. These are regular, from all appearances, a regular person. Is this some kind of genetic malfunction, or what do you attribute this to?
Well, I think it's a chain of events, really, like anything else. Disaster never comes because one thing went wrong. It's a series of things go wrong, and it allows it to continue and grow worse until inevitably you've got a big disaster. So Alfred Kinsey back in the 40s and 50s was a sadomasochistic pedophile masquerading as a scientist. Mm-hmm. And he falsified a bunch of studies of child rape to decide that any manner of screaming or crying or even passing out or jerking or flinching and all these things were orgasm, he decided. So that's how sick he was.
Yeah.
And he was paying child predators to rape children, and he was marking down the results for his studies. And so the Kinsey report is, the Kinsey Institute is still heavily funded and celebrated to this day. Alfred Kinsey is the father of the sexual revolution.
Right.
But they don't talk about the fact that his mind was sick, that his own genitals were mutilated by what he preferred sexually.
Wow.
He was not a healthy man.
Yeah.
And so he wanted sex with children by adults to be normal and good.
Right.
And he wanted to be told that he was normal. And so he falsified all of his studies. Well, now he went around very actively politicking state by state, all 50 states, to our legal system, psychological health care system, and our educational system. So now fast forward several generations later, we've got an epidemic because it's been softball. They've all been made soft to it and like, oh, it's just a sexual preference. It can be okay. It's the next normal thing. No, it's not. It's rape. The child can't advocate for themselves. This is radically different than, say, two homosexual men that were consenting and doing whatever they did in private.
Right.
This is entirely different because the child cannot speak for themselves.
Yeah.
So it's not consensual. The child is not old enough or developed to give that consent. So it can never be okay for that very specific reason. So that's one aspect of it. Another aspect, it is absolutely evil. Some of the federal agents that were working on a lot of these big cases that were beginning to tell me about this when I first started learning more about it about 5 years ago, said, Craig, this is different than any case, any mafia cases or any cartel cases or anything that you'll ever see or deal with. Mm-hmm. When you peel back all the layers of the onion on this one and you get down to where the rubber really meets the road, the darkest depths of it, past all the billions of dollars in the criminal enterprise, past all the sexual perversion, and past all the abusive nature of the what's the word I'm looking for? The people that get off on harming someone, the sadistic nature of it. There is an element of evil that some of these people are on a specific agenda that they believe, and they're intentionally evil. Okay. And in different cults and things like that. A percentage of them. There's a core of these people all across the country, but a lot of them are in Ohio, California, and New York. They believe that by doing the unthinkable to God's most precious and innocent, which are the children, that they'll get special benefits and powers from the dark side.
Okay.
And there'll be somebody in their world the way that they couldn't be unless they did this horrible thing. So there's that. And these people are absolutely sick. But that is the worst of the worst.
It's almost hard to accept. It just seems so supernatural. I mean, first off, and I'm not challenging it. I'm just it's just so hard to accept that there are people who are doing some kind of demonic, power grab and to accomplish this means, and the kids are I struggle to accept that, but you are telling me too.
I've been struggling with it for 3 years and I deal with it every day. And I'm like, how can this be a thing?
Yeah. Right.
You scumbags, you idiots. How do you what has to happen in your life before you devolve all the way down to this being a thing for you?
Right.
To where you're in some sort of group that you think torturing a child to death, buying a child outright, for a sum of money and torture him to death in some ceremony is going to get you anything in the long run? Are you kidding me? What kind of pathetic pieces of filth devolve into that? I'll never understand it.
And you're talking about now, if you're buying kids, you have means, and that brings us into the Epstein thing and the Prince Andrew and all these guys that, who knows what is happening, but you're in this world. You can't buy a kid if you're a broke guy. You're like a plumber.
Well, you in some ways. So MS-13 and all these groups, they're trafficking children now too.
Right. Okay.
And there's every price range according to what the predator, the end user, the client, if you will, wants.
Right.
So there's scummy motel rooms with relatively cheap tricks, if you will,
Right.
with kids.
Right.
So there's that filthy street corner level of
Right.
it.
Yeah.
And then all the way up to people like Epstein and Weinstein that can afford kind of whatever they want. And they fly people to islands and do things that, they have to fly all the way out there to do it because they don't even dare do it
Right.
at their mansions in New York or Beverly Hills because they think, they could still get raided by the police
Too
there.
risky. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So it's a wide scope of it, really.
Right.
There's kind of
Like you
every
said, it's
manner of
pervasive.
abuse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's shocking. Are you guys making progress on this thing? Or do you feel like there's just so much of it or whatever?
Yeah. What's happening is, I find that if you sit on the sofa in life and you just wish for hope and change,
Yeah.
you're going to grow old there and die
Yeah.
right there where you sit.
Right.
But if you get up and take action, even if your action isn't perfect, people will see you mean business and they'll join you.
Yeah.
Maybe this is a bad analogy, but like Forrest Gump went out on his run and people started following him, right?
Yeah.
And I say that in kind of a self-deprecating kind of way. Like I got my heart broken. I got ticked off about the abuse to children, and I decided to form a mission against it. And I just started taking action.
Right.
And people, they saw in that I meant business. And they're like, this guy's not kidding. For the love of God, let's help him. He's up against a big, $38 to $50 billion a year criminal enterprise.
Yeah.
Let's help him. And so now, after I've proven myself and our org's proven ourselves operationally and with the documentary, then now networks of stronger people with political backing, with legal backing, with financial backing are like, Saw, we've been watching you, brother, and we're proud of you.
Yeah.
And you're doing good.
Right.
And now we're going to line up with you and we're going to help you.
Yeah.
And we're going to bring some assets to bear. And this needs to happen. So, we are making progress. And there's all manner of things happening. Some of them fantastic, and you get your hopes up and it looks like this huge win's going to happen, and then it dematerializes. But someone else comes along, and that one follows through, and it comes through, and it comes to fruition. And so the machine to safeguard the children is being built, and that feels good. Even though the subject is dark and despicable, the sunlight outshines the darkness 1,000-fold. And seeing people come together on this does feel good, and it's just a positive thing. So I'm proud of the people for joining me.
And you look at the numbers of kids that experience some kind of abuse, sexual abuse, whatever it is, that means like we all know kids that are being abused right now. Like there's just it's so common.
I can't tell you. It seems like about 1 in 3.
Yeah.
Now.
Yeah.
Because
I mean, if you know
we've
10
known
kids, you
we've
know
known of the women. They were said it was 1 in 5, and then 2 in 5, and my wife's like, so many of all her friends that she grew up with, both of my wives, were victims growing up, in their childhood. And so when I tell people, I mean, I'm talking about people of all walks of life, pro musicians, politicians, operators, all kinds of people, when they learn what I'm doing and we're sitting down having dinner somewhere or burning a cigar and we're being real with each other, we're opening up and talking about what really makes us tick.
Yeah.
They confide in me, Craig, I was abused as a kid. I'm a victim. I'm like, my God, you too?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm lucky that I wasn't a victim. I was the beneficiary of a loving, healthy family, and for which I'm very grateful. But I'm realizing more and more and more that that's not normal. That's not the standard. That's the exception. Yeah. And so, we've got a lot of people that are dealing with a lot of stuff, and it breaks my heart, and it ticks me off. And we got to give kids a fair start in life. Look, life will beat us up enough as adult, right? There's enough stress. There's enough garbage to wade through. Yeah. Let's just give kids a childhood, an innocent, happy, safe childhood, so that they can arrive at adulthood with a fair chance, a fair start, right? Can we at least do that?
I'm working on this project called the Prison Chronicles, and we talked to a number of rehabilitated murderers and other criminals. And one of them was abused as a kid. And if not for that incident, maybe he has a fairly normal, hard adulthood. But instead, he took unnecessary risks, wanted to defend other people that were being abused in any kind of way. And ultimately ended up killing somebody, because of this whole damage that he took. And maybe those things aren't 100% overlapping, and maybe it is not the reason, but it's sure not the reason. Like it's, like that kind of. So there's the other thing is like now someone's been doomed to this hard life, and then this guy goes to jail for a quarter century or whatever, all because of someone else in his life creating this thing. Maybe he was still going to go on and screw something up, but he didn't need that extra rock in his ruck,
Yeah, well, actions have consequences. And what I've learned is that too many people, because they were wronged at one point in their life, they do wrong to others rather than be the stronger link that's going to break the cycle and go, you know what, I'm going to stop this chain of events. I'm going to be the better man or woman, and it's going to stop with me. And my father was such a man. My father was apparently being beaten to death by his father when he was 5 years old. His mother, my grandmother, shot her husband off of my father.
Wow.
So with a shotgun. My dad grew up to be the most loving and caring father anybody could ever want.
Yeah.
So I expected that would be the normal for anybody that was done wrong, that they would want to break that cycle. But what I've learned in running operations and dealing with law enforcement for 3 years now in this regard, most people seem to just take it out on others instead of being strong enough to break it. So anybody that hears this, man, I would hope that they would be one to put a stop to it in their life and just, man, safeguard the kids because they're innocent. They don't deserve it.
I'm going to ask you one more question about cause and everything. And I've got Dan sitting over here with me. Dan is a longtime resident of this area and a corrections officer, police officer. You live in an area that's a border state, and we have all these political conversations, policy conversations. Let's say that, take the politics out of it. A policy conversation about how to control the border. Look, I went to spy school south of here, and there was you could walk across the border in some places. I stood in Naco. We got a dog one day. We bought a dog in Naco, and I had 1 foot in Mexico, 1 foot in California. I'm just in the middle of a street. There was nothing stopping me from doing anything. And now we're like trying to understand this. We know that gangs come across. We know that cartels come across and do business here, nefarious business. What are your thoughts on controlling our borders, or at least attempting to control the borders in places like Texas, Mexico, Texas, Arizona, New Mexico, California?
Yeah, well, I think anybody living in a rational adult mind that's done international work or law enforcement work just inherently understands that it's common sense that there's a reason why all sovereign countries patrol and protect their borders.
Right.
It's just really not even a discussion. The only reason it's a discussion is because of some radicals that hate our country are trying to force a very dark and corrupt agenda. And they're not looking after the best interest of the American people. So that's almost a non-starter conversation. It's it's a no-brainer that we need to have control over access because we do intend to defend our people and look after their best interests. And we, as an American people, have always loved and welcomed immigrants. And there's always been a legal and honorable and respectful system and manner of doing that. That has not changed. The only thing that's changed is a radical element of our society trying to act like they don't understand the difference between legal and illegal recently, and try to blur the lines and go on some reckless and irresponsible no borders agenda that was designed for destruction. And so that's the only reason that's even come up.
And just to be clear, I was at Johnny. Do you know Johnny Walker?
Yeah.
Okay, so Johnny and I are friends. We worked with me.
I just saw him last week.
Yeah, he's my interpreter for a while. So I kind of babysat him for you guys in between rotations.
Okay.
So he and I go back almost 20 years now, right? And I was at his swearing-in ceremony, and it's whatever people think that military folks are conservative and all that kind of thing, and that we're anti-immigrants. Let me tell you something. There were 2 loud cheers the day he got sworn in. There were a whole lot of folks from Mexico that got sworn in, and we were all excited about that. And then they said Johnny's name, and there were probably 100 SEALs in that room screaming their heads off.
Yeah.
Well, because we love. I always say my favorite American is the next one. Come on, let's go. You're going to give it all to come here and go for it? Let's do it.
He and I, in fact, we talked about that last week. They fought him. The State Department fought him so hard to keep him from coming here. And he had risked his life
over and over
so many times.
Yeah.
And just a ridiculous number of times. And to prove himself, they should have been begging him to come here and roll out the red carpet. Why were they so combative? Why did they make it so difficult when there are literally millions of people can walk straight across the desert floor with nobody checking them for diseases, nobody checking them for background or affiliation. If they're Chinese, if they're Russian, if they're Al-Qaeda, if they're ISIS, if they're diseased with God knows what. No, we don't care about them, but we're going to beat Johnny Walker to death for years and make him miserable so that he can migrate here after serving our country in a war zone and proving himself beyond all doubt.
Yeah.
It's a ridiculous situation. That needs to change. That's a shameful aspect of how our federal government is run.
And for those of you who don't know, Johnny Walker's story is plenty of episodes here. And I will tell you this. Craig Sawyer went through BUD/S and graduated. He's a SEAL, and he can always wear a trident on his chest. Johnny Walker never went through BUD/S and could wear a trident on his chest because guys like Sawman and his peers have all said, you are one of us. That's the ultimate citizenship. That would never happen. You guys would be like, hey, Pete, here's a trident. No. That is earned in 2 ways. One is like do crazy-ass shit like Johnny did and do more SEAL missions than any SEAL in Iraq, or you go through BUD/S.
Yeah. And for the locals over there, there's the threat against their own families.
Constant.
Right?
Yeah.
So he was hanging it out there by working with us. So
there's no doubt.
God bless him. We love Johnny.
So how do people support you?
Man, pray for the kids. Pray for our team and our staff. This is an ugly conflict. We're disrupting a multi-billion-dollar business, and the crooks do not have any sense of humor about it. There is an element of good versus evil here that is really, really powerful, and it's a big deal. Go to Vets for Child Rescue, buy our merch. We got T-shirts and all kinds of cool stuff. You could donate to fund our mission. We are just a 501c3 nonprofit org, so the only thing that we can do, we do with donations. Go to the website, learn more about how this works. Watch for our documentary Contraland that's going to be coming out here in just probably several months now. And share the word with everybody that you know about child sex trafficking, what's going on with it once you learn, and then hammer your elected officials. Please, folks, write them, call them, demand stronger enforcement for the children. We need to defend the children. We need to get serious about it. Form networks like Pete was talking about. Design your own. Reach out to all your friends and family across the country and say, look, let's get smart on this as a network. Instead of playing bridge, let's capture bad guys that rape children and make the world a better place with our spare time. How about you? And put together a network and start identifying what are the symptoms, what are the signs, and start making catalogs and share it with each other. Start photographing, videoing, and building case files and helping us take predators down. It'll be a beautiful thing.
Yeah, and the kid's life you might save might be your own.
Yes. Yeah.